Good morning, YouTube. Well, today I am in Roslyn, South Dakota, and we're going to go check out the International Vinegar Museum. Sounds interesting. Okay, so I'm inside the museum here, and to get an idea of how vinegar is made. Starts with the starch, grains, root crops. They convert that sugar because of malting and molds and enzymes, and it all becomes that sugar. It's converted to alcohol by the yeast, and then converted to vinegar after that by the acidic bacteria. Can't pronounce that one. And that's aged to improve the flavor and mouthfeel, and it's shipped and packaged. So vinegar dates back to the Babylonians, back 5,000 or more BC, and they made it from dates and from the sap of the date trees. And there's all kinds of, they've got a display here of vinegar events. I'm not going to go through it all, just the fact that it goes back that far.
Well, very good, very good. Yeah, it's nice to have the buildings left.
So all these pins represent countries that they have a vinegar from. So if you go to any country that doesn't have a pin in it and want to bring them some vinegar, I'm sure they'd be happy to get an idea. This is their international parade of vinegars. There's fruit vinegars, grain vinegars, and then flavored vinegars, and then products that use vinegar. I'm sure you've heard of Louis Pasteur, and basically for pasteurization, and he also saved the wine industry by coming up with a way to greatly improve the production of vinegar. Oh no! So balsamic vinegar is the grapes, turbino, I can't pronounce that correctly. Grapes are crushed, then they're boiled in a copper kettles and poured into wooden barrels. And then they're made from different woods, and they move the vinegar from barrel to barrel over time, and it creates a little bit different flavors. Eventually, enough of the liquids have evaporated, it becomes very thick, and then it's tested, and very rigorous testing to be labeled traditional. Most of the balsamic vinegars you can get now, because it's so rare and expensive for real stuff, are imitation. So I didn't know this, but the Chinese made their vinegar from barley, sorghum, and peas. Interesting. Japanese, of course, would have made it with brown rice vinegar. I think we may have all seen that in stores and whatnot. So in Britain, not known for its grapes, they had to come up with a different way to make vinegar. They were good at growing grains and brewing beers, and so they made a malted vinegar using much the same process as making beer, but letting it go sour. So when you first make vinegar, it can be pretty harsh, but you can age it using wood chips, apple, maple, alder, some of the woods, oak, another one. And then you can also flavor. They got some ideas here for flavoring their vinegars using cardamom, nutmeg, coriander, cinnamon, vanilla, pepper, saffron, star anise. There's, make your own flavored vinegar. It's not that hard. There's a couple of novel uses for vinegar that I had never heard of. If you've got a child with head lice, it's hard to get the eggs out because they're basically super glued onto the hair. Wash with vinegar and it dissolves the glue, makes it easier to get them out. If you get bit by a mosquito and it itches, take cloth and put a little vinegar in it and dab it on it, and within a minute the itch should go away. If you're unlucky enough to get stung by a box jellyfish, it can be fatal. But they did a study, found out that you need 2 liters of vinegar, and if you pour it on for about 30 seconds, it will stop the release of the toxin and could save that person's life. So keep some vinegar on hand if you're going near the ocean. So one of the features is at the museum here is a tasting bar. And finally got to taste real balsamic vinegar. It is definitely thick. Today they had tequila, lime, red raspberry, and spiced pecan. And the way you taste them is with these little, swabs like you see in a doctor's office. Just dip it in, take a taste. And this is very limey. Red raspberry was sort of very subtle. And the spiced pecan had a little bit of a burn to it. The balsamic vinegar was much sweeter than I expected. But then again, I've never had real balsamic vinegar. But just the fact that they have a tasting bar is sort of cool. Now, one of your first questions might be, like my first question, is why International Vinegar Museum in Roslyn, South Dakota? It's literally a town with 250 people in it, tiny little place in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing but fields of grain and corn around. It basically is due to this gentleman right here. His name is Lawrence Diggs, and he moved here and became active in the community. The only black guy in a town full of Norwegian Lutherans, and he told them that they needed something to draw people in. He said, I know vinegar. He was a consultant for the International Vinegar Makers, and came up with the idea of the Vinegar Museum, and they put it in this building. It used to be the town hall. Before that, it was the high school gym, so that's why the nice wooden floors look like a gym floor. And we just saw there's a lot of interesting display here, different things. So I know it's definitely out of the way, but if you happen to be passing down 29 between Fargo and Sioux Falls, it's only in about a half an hour to the west. Come on over, take a look. The admission's $2, and for children it's $1. But you can learn a lot about vinegars. So I am going to get on the road and see what I can find next. See you later, YouTube.